moment he said, this is it then. Like, it's easier to leave each other than to work on it.
Chessie King, author, creator, mama, and founder of Babyhood.
3 weeks in, and I had Aurelia strapped to me, and I was like, I just want to set up this business because I want it to be accessible for every parent that is feeling how I'm feeling.
I'd say her voice is best known for those honest, candid conversations online.
Do become unrecognisable because you're piling so much into this little human.
That unfiltered side of womanhood, from embracing body changes.
I've never wanted to be the size that I was before Aurelia.
To navigating the highs and lows of motherhood.
I remember just being on the floor and just like had my head in my hands. And I could not stop crying.
Chessie opens up about a struggle I think a lot of us can face when a baby first enters the picture.
I never thought I would even say the word divorce. I was like, who am I living with? When I told him I didn't want another baby with this version of him, and that really shook everything up.
Welcome to CEO Mum. This is the podcast where we explore how women juggle both the demanding worlds of business and motherhood. I'm your host, Jada Sezer. Welcome back. In this episode, we're joined by the incredible Chessie King, author, creator, mama, and founder of Babyhood. I'd say her voice is best known for those honest, candid conversations online, where she talks about her professional and personal life and everything in between. Chessie has inspired thousands by revealing that unfiltered side of womanhood, from embracing body changes to navigating the highs and lows of motherhood. In this episode, Chessie opens up about a struggle I think a lot of us can face when a baby first enters the picture, especially the impact it has on our relationships and the difficult conversations potentially around divorce. Chessie shares and opens up about how her and her partner navigated that and how they also came back and strengthened their relationship. We also dive into the chaos of managing it all, from the crazy pickups and drop-offs and busy schedule to renovating a house to managing content creation and continuing to build her business. This is a conversation you're not going to want to miss. It's inspiring, it's honest, it's uplifting, and I think it gives us all a little hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel when you're in the craziness of it all. This is CEO Mum, the podcast. I'm your host, Jada Sezer. Welcome back.
The first 2 weeks, a lot of it was spent in bed, and I remember everyone just saying after a cesarean, like, make sure you honour that period of rest and recovery, and I really did try and stick to that. However, 3 days in, my milk was coming in, and I basically said to Matt, was like, I really want to create something for new parents, for new mums that are going through exactly what I'm going through, to help them in sleep, brain, body and feeding. And I basically came up with a business. 3 days in, I was like, I want it to be called Babyhood, and I was like, let's just hold off, let's just recover from this, let's just set your work brain apart, like quieten that down, and we'll come back to that. And I revisited it like 3 weeks in, and I had Aurelia strapped to me, and I was like, I just want to set up this business because I want it to be accessible for every parent that is feeling how I'm feeling. I was buying these courses and almost like an SOS, like I bought this woman, American woman that everyone's saying she like is a sleep savior, and I was like, I'll spend any money just to get it. And I was like binge watching these courses before bedtime in hope it would like help me get her to sleep, but obviously it didn't. So I felt like it was easier to strap her to me and just work when she was tiny, and now it's a whole different world. I try not to be on my phone at all, like I want to be fully present with her, but in the first stage, like early stages, when you're feeding most of the day, you are on your phone and I was in bed, like I had a lot of ideas, but I was also just struggling so much that's kind of where Babyhood kind of was born, like when Aurelia was born. So
that's pretty impressive that you're able to go into things and see in kind of a hard, overwhelming moment of your life the things that you're struggling with, but also trying to shine light on that for other mums, knowing that it's probably a universal struggle. Whereas I think a lot of people can maybe isolate themselves thinking that they're going through it alone. But what wisdom you had to know that actually other people are probably, if I'm feeling it, I'm sure that other new mums are feeling this too. Did you ever have conflict with how am I going to juggle my time doing this? Was there any like mum guilt? People often talk about mum guilt, not being able to do anything well. Did you ever think about that, or was that not in your mind at all?
I think because it was so baby focused and she was kind of the reason for the creation of Babyhood, I don't think I ever felt that guilt because I knew that it would help people. I felt like the courses that were available, and the one-to-one special, especially in London, like the specialised expert help that you can get. Like a Zoom session, a 1 hour Zoom session would be £250. And I was like, people wouldn't be able to afford that even. I would not want to part with that money, knowing that it's going to help me, but also I prefer to spend £250 on, I don't know, like help from a real life human. Like there was that battle between wanting the help and everyone saying accept the help, but like knowing its value and worth. So I knew that I wanted to make it as affordable as possible, but I think I'm in the very rare percentage that has never felt mum guilt, because I feel like when I'm with her, I'm fully with her. I think for every mum listening, if you're pregnant or in that newborn stage, like the time that you have to spend out, and whatever that time is, like we hear me time so much, but experimenting in the early days what that me time is for you, whether it is literally just lying down in silence or listening to your favourite songs that got you through like your 90s years or whatever. Yeah, it's just a constant experiment with yourself and going, right, what is this time now that I need to kind of reset to be the best version of myself for my child when I'm with them? Because like when I go away for work now, and like when I'm away from Ray, I'm like, I don't feel that guilt, because I kind of want her to know that, yeah, I always come back, and I'm doing this for her and her future, and I want her to know that when she's like my age, or when she gets 16, 17, 18, if I'm telling her these stories, like when you were 2, I was off doing this, and I don't want her to ever think, you should have done more, mum, like I would have been fine. Like obviously they're not just self-sufficient at this age, but I want her to think, yeah, go on, mum, you did that when I was little.
What role does professional or personal support play in your life?
Aurelia goes to a forest school, which is like a nursery but outside, and that's kind of our only childcare. She goes from Monday to Thursday, 9:30 till 3:30, and by the time I drop her off and pick her up, like Matt and I will tag team, but you've got like that 5 hours to work in the day, so it kind of makes you just go like supercharged. You're like, okay, I've got 5 hours, let's go. It's like whenever I need to tidy up the house, I put like a 5-minute timer on Alexa, and I'm like, I'm gonna beat you, Alexa, I'm gonna win. Like I make everything a game. You've got a game of 5 things like when you become a parent, because otherwise everything's so serious and boring, and just trying to make the mundane things just quite fun, like the daily tasks.
And that was from when Ray was 2.
Yeah.
And before that?
Before that, we did have like she was a babysitter, but I'm sure she classes herself as a nanny. She came in like ad hoc, like 1 full day a week, and then we'd kind of be in the house with her. Before she was 1, I couldn't leave her for longer than like 20-30 minutes, because she was just a milkshake lover. She would just be sucking on the baby.
If you're not watching the video, Chessie did just grab her baby.
I did just grab her baby. Yay! My very deflated boobies, bless them. But she was phenomenal, and she really helped me kind of like get back into that headspace of like, right, you need your own time. And I think I really had to reprogram the time that I was paying for someone to look after her, like that 1 day a week or whatever it was. It didn't always have to be work. Like I think in my head pre-Aurelia, I was just every single hour of the day has got to be work. Like you said before, having the twins, you're just so focused on that, and I think that's kind of society that's telling us to do that. But yeah, I always gave myself an hour of that day just fully work-free. It was either to see a friend or just to go out and just have a walk or do something that just wasn't on my phone or emails or on a call, like, yeah.
But how do you battle with the idea of you're paying someone to look after your child and you're not generating income during that time? Like your time when you have children, from my experience, is never free. You have no free time, and the cost of your time becomes recontextualized when you're paying for a childminder or a nanny or nursery to come and take care of your children whilst you go out. How did you, because there are probably a lot of people that are here that's like, I can't afford childcare, or how would I even get any of my time back when they're in those few early years. How did you put parameters on your time to say, this is me time, this is work time, I'm going to protect my peace in these spaces? How did you differentiate between how you're going to spend your time?
You're so right, yeah, you're always paying. That whole concept of like, if you're paying for childcare, then you have to be earning money, just is so wild, because like a lot of mums that I'm very close with, and a lot of mums in like the community, the money that they're earning from their job doesn't even cover the childcare on top of all the nappies, on top of all the formula, everything else that you spend. And I would just say the help that I was offered from even friends that don't have children, that just say, look, please let me take them for an hour whilst you take your call, or let me just push the buggy whilst you're taking it next to me so that you don't feel like we're apart. Like any help that I was offered, at the start I didn't take because I was like, I don't need it, I'll be fine. And I think I had that like in a monologue that was like, you can't be outside of like a 2-meter radius at any point because she needs you. What if she needs you? But then the older she started to get, the more obviously after weaning, after 6 months, you're like, right, I can take that help. In my mind, like now, I kind of wish I'd said yes to help, not necessarily for just Aurelia, but help within the house, like, you know, like the endless laundry, the endless cleaning. And if one of my best friends basically just said, look, any jobs that you have, just give them to me. And I was like, oh, don't worry, that's so sweet of you. But now, well, I'm hoping that help will still be offered next time. Like just saying, look, this is what I really need you to do, and it would help me so much. Just literally just hung up the baby grows. That would honestly save me. And it's not necessarily the help with your children that you need, it's the help around the house and all the other things. So I would say like crashes at gyms, as much as I'm sure there are some amazing ones, I'm sure there are not so amazing ones, but just testing out, like it's £5 for an hour, which is a lot cheaper than a nanny or babysitter. So finding alternatives, finding like a friend that has a baby a similar age or whatever, and just being like, look, I'll look after your baby for half an hour and you go off and do whatever you need to do, or you look after mine for half an hour. Like finding different ways that you don't have to pay a stupid amount and just getting like little bits done, especially when they're younger, it's invaluable.
I know that because I was like, give me all the help.
Yeah.
Like we had just phenomenal help. It took a tribe. It currently is still taking a village to support us and our family, and it's had its benefits. It's been wonderful, but it also means that our house is the busiest it's ever been, which is really new for me as somebody that's lived alone for many years and been, I would say I was quite like a lone wolf, just me traveling, moving to Australia for a year, like doing a lot in isolation, especially as a content creator, you tend to do a lot alone. But now the house is very different. How did you and Matt approach domestic work? What was your approach to splitting those tasks? A lot of people have spoken about blue and pink tasks.
Ooh,
I didn't know about this.
it's very gender specific.
I know, I'm not across that.
No.
I did DIY in my house.
Nice.
But
Yeah, so do I.
what was your approach to that between you as a couple?
I think we just worked it out on like a daily basis. If he was at full capacity and I could tell like he was tapped out or he just needed some time, then I would kind of step in, and vice versa. Like I think we kind of, at the early stages, we were just like, you're just working this whole new territory out, aren't you? It is a whole new dynamic. Like I think now we still thank each other for like unpacking the dishwasher, and we still, I'm like you, I love doing DIY and I love putting things together. Like Ray's got like a new climbing frame and I'll put that together, whereas I know Matt does not want to be doing that. And I think we got to know what the other liked doing. I think that open communication, I could tell he didn't like bath time as much as he liked reading Ray a story before bed. So I was like, look, I can do bath times because I know that that's just not working with you. It will change, like as your child gets older and as you feel like you've settled into your role a bit more, but just kind of recognizing when the other needs to tap in or tap out, because it's a whole new dynamic.
So you don't have like a set schedule, you kind of just always just chip in here and there, and that works out for you guys. There's never a point where you're like, you haven't pulled up your socks enough this week, or
I'm never one to pull him up on what he hasn't done. However, as you said at the beginning, maybe that's not working for us, because up until about 2 months ago, we had an 8-month stint of like, we weren't just housemates, we were co-parenting in a way that was so separate, and we were like unrecognisable versions of ourselves to each other. Like we've been together for 8 years, and I was like, who am I living with? Like, who is this guy in my house who I just don't have that connection with? Like it was, I think a lot of couples go through this, and actually since I've spoken about it openly, I've had some of my best friends who I didn't realise were struggling go, you've saved our marriage, like you could potentially be the pivot in this relationship that was going to end, because you've made me realise that one, it's normal, and two, we just need to like reset. And obviously huge amounts of conversation around this for Matt and I, and we have both been very open with it. And he admitted to me that he had struggled so much in the early days of parenthood, not just with like this new role as a father, but he was really trying to like set his business up, and I think everything just coincided and his identity shifted a lot, and I think he's now realised that it was a form of postnatal depression for a father and for a dad, which I don't think has enough airtime. It was a huge mix between obviously me being the sole provider of keeping her alive with my boobies, and also just that connection that I had with Aurelia. He felt like he didn't, and it's been a lot. And I think him openly saying to me when I told him I didn't want another baby with this version of him, and that really shook everything up. Like, he knows that I want a big family if I can, if we're able to, despite having 9 months of sickness. Like, that's such a tiny little slither of Aurelia's life, and hopefully I won't experience it again as intensely. But I think just being in a house with your partner or whoever you're parenting with in that intense environment when you've got another human to look after, or humans, like multiples, it just completely, it just shakes everything up. Like, you do become unrecognisable because you're piling so much into this little human. And if you don't have those touch points, if you don't have that regrouping in the evenings when they are asleep, it can be really, really hard. And I mean, I never thought I would even say the word divorce, especially as a 30-year-old. Like, that for me, I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm even thinking this. And the moment he said, this is it then, like, it's easier to leave each other than to work on it, that was like, whoa. Like, he's literally put this on the table, which I thought I wanted to hear. I was in my head, I was like, if he tells me that we're done, like, that would just be a sigh of relief. I was at the very end. But it's strange, my brain just went, no, we need to save this for us and for Aurelia. So I just said, let's completely strip it back down to the foundations of our relationship, which is just fun and friendship and that connection, and let's just find that again. Like, no pressures of what's going to happen next, how long we're going to stay together, the next baby, or any of that. Let's just show Aurelia who we were as a couple before we had her, and it's working. It's been 2 months and like, we're working on it, and it's going well. There's still obviously points where we're both like, we're good, and we're just like, we're finding ourselves again.
It is a journey, isn't it? And naturally, I think more people go through that moment of separation and becoming reunited again more than we think.
Yeah.
But it is a lot. You know, as a new mum, that's also sole caregiver a lot of the time, especially if you're breastfeeding on demand, to a human where their life depends on your support, to then also have to manage the changing dynamic of your relationship. What were your biggest challenges in that new dynamic?
I think in the early stages, the fact that he could just walk out the door without even thinking about anything, and just popping to the shops. I was like, how are you doing that? Like, I've got to then think about the carrier and her strapped to me and all the things, and like, if I need a nappy, and he could just leave so nonchalantly. And I was like, I'm extra chalant right now. I don't have any and my focus was just fully on her. And I think now he says that was escapism for him, because he needed to get out of the house, he needed that reset, and that built up like over time. And I think I had that almost like, I wasn't angry with him, I think I was just almost a little bit jealous of him, and I've never felt jealousy. Haven't been brought up in that environment with my brothers and sisters. We're so incredibly supportive with each other. Like, I'm the eldest, and I've kind of watched them grow up almost as like a motherly figure. So I never felt jealousy to anyone but Matt. And I was like, why am I jealous of my husband being able to just leave and go on these boys' trips and go play golf and train for a triathlon and do all these things that I can't even think about doing right now, let alone actually go and take action. So that really surprised me, because I never really experienced jealousy before, and I think it's a really normal thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, you know, when you have a child, and the majority of the time, women take on the majority of that responsibility, and not only that, your body's healing, so you're a very different person. Your body is no longer yours the way it was before. So recovery time, then breastfeeding can have a big impact on that. Lack of sleep, you know, you're waking up to feed how many times in the middle of the night. All of that can become a different version that you do not recognise. Yeah. So it's understandable that you would be somewhat a bit resentful that somebody can just hop on out without having to recover from a C-section, etc., etc. So I think it's really normal, and I think that can also be something that takes a while to work through, because you will become yourself again. It just takes a bit of time and patience. I feel like there's also a lot of inequality across the board between men and women, and that comes to light when you do have kids. We talk about the motherhood penalty being a massive thing that affects women in their careers, work in their house, the knock-on effect that having a child has on their work, then the income that they then currently have, because they're spending most of their time doing childcare. Because they're at home, they tend to do the most of the domestic labour. Did you find there was any really stark moments of inequality that came to light after you had a baby?
There was one night where I think it was just a full-on breakdown, and my friends know that I text the Golden Girls group, which is like all my best friends, my bridesmaids, and I basically just said, is anyone free to talk? And literally all of them just called at one time, and I just could not stop crying. It was like all of this emotion. I don't think she was even a year, and basically she was screaming. I'd been trying to put her to bed for like 3 hours, and Matt was away, and I'd like put on the millionth load of washing, and my body like almost went into a full like open heart, just crunched down. I remember just being on the floor and just like had my head in my hands, and I could not stop crying. And I think that was like a realization of, if Matt's away and I'm going through this right now, like this is totally off kilter. Like we are not balanced here. And as much as he does a lot now, like his connection with Aurelia is unbelievable, and I love watching it, and like he is just everything I've wanted in a father. But back then, now I know he was struggling so much with it, and he didn't enjoy it, that he was tapped out, like, but I was so fully involved. And I basically said on the phone to my best friend, I was like, I just can't believe I'm finding it this hard. And now, like, I feel so sorry for that version of Chessie, because like Matt says to me now, he's like, you did it all. And I felt like I was mothering Matt as well as Aurelia. And I feel like I set up Welcome to Babyhood. I was trying to do it all like we all are, and I just wish that I could go back and cuddle and be like, no wonder you're finding this so hard. Like, I think I had this idea of motherhood in my head as this beautiful pastel hued, like dreamy state of like, oh, me and my baby will be so close and we'll love each other and it would just be sensational. And actually it was just, and it still is, the most challenging thing I had ever been through. And I've had 2 heart operations. I've had like, yeah, it's just wild, and it is the most beautiful thing, but it is just the most intense thing. And I read Matrescence, which I think every mother should read. It's just phenomenal. It really just, it spoke to me. I was like, okay, this makes sense, like the science behind it and everything, like your brain is just completely changing. And I made my mum read it because mum had 3 of us. And obviously, as a mother of a daughter and me being the eldest, I was like, I really want that connection with my mum to know that she's read the same book that I've read, it was just phenomenal.
I'd love to understand a little bit more about if and how societal pressures of being a working mum affect you at all. You know, there's a lot of stigma around, oh, you know, maybe you're not maternal if you're not spending time with your baby and choose to be focused on your business or going to work. The fact that you might not even be able to afford childcare, even though you do go to work every day. Some women have to do it to retain a position, have some sense of identity. There's many reasons that women choose to have a baby and also maintain their careers. What's your approach been to that, and has societal pressures affected you at all?
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like especially when I'm out the country, that's when like there's the most, I feel like there's a judgmental side, especially online, that go, why are you not with her?
Or who's looking after your child?
Yeah.
Like, child has a dad.
Yeah, literally. It's like, come on, like you would know, he was away for weeks when Aurelia was tiny, like for work. And I would never get a question going, where's Matt? Or for Matt to be asked, yeah, who's looking after Ray? I think especially with like social media and Instagram, you will always have these people that will judge you on that 15 seconds, or like, because I don't show Aurelia's face, like I don't show much of her at all. I don't really talk about motherhood as much as I thought I would on Instagram, and I think that kind of leads people to think that I don't spend much time with her when I'm with her constantly. It's very rare that I go away for work, but if I do, I have to show it because that's part of my work. I went to a party the other day, like a 2-year-old's birthday party, absolute chaos but beautiful, and one of the mums had 2 little ones, and she said, oh, does Rayleigh go to forest school with Finley? And I said, yeah. I said, oh, where does your daughter go? She went, oh, no, she stays at me, I'm with them 24/7. And she looked at me like, no, I didn't choose to send them off. And I went, that's amazing. And she said, yeah, I love it, it's absolutely perfect. And she basically it was interesting because I've never been spoken to like that as a mum. It was just a very judgmental, like, it was like, you've chosen the wrong thing, basically. And she went on to say, like, I don't believe in having children to send them off to strangers to look after them, which I totally appreciate. Like, if that's what you want to do as a mother, that is absolutely incredible. Like, if you have the patience to be with your child 24/7, then that's phenomenal. However, there are days where I am 24/7 with Ray. She's in my bed for the entire night and then I'm with her the entire day. However, there are days where I have to go and work because I pay for a lot of things that, I need to then work for. Otherwise, we can't survive. We can't live in the lifestyle that we live. And I just feel like with mums, the judgment needs to just completely diminish. Like, we have judgment from all aspects. We don't need any of that in our community. Like, and I think that open conversation of just going, that's amazing that you're doing that. But if you need help, like, who is helping you? Because you must get to the point where you're at full capacity. Everyone needs help. Even if it is like your sister who lives an hour and a half away, just going, look, I'll come up for a day. Let's just spend the day together. Just having like double hands. You need that. So yeah, I think we just need to, society puts enough pressure on us. Let's just take that all out of the motherhood community because we really don't need that for each other. Yeah.
And how do you approach it when people say things like that? Or I know that this was a rare occasion, but
yeah,
it kind of gets you, I'm sure, like, because you don't expect it.
Yeah, well, I was a little bit shocked because it was just like, oh, you're sending your child off to be looked after by strangers. I was like, I kind of need that. Yeah, and she's out in the forest, she's learning, like, she's literally spending time where I think every toddler should be, like, out in the open, learning through all weather conditions. Like, she has become the most resilient little human ever. Like, it will be pouring down rain, it's so gross, it's so muddy, and Matt and I are like, oh, should we go back inside? And Ray's just there, just like so unaffected. So yeah, I think you just have to smile and be like, okay, that's our choices separately. And I find it fascinating because there are so many different ways to parent, and there are so many different situations that parents find themselves in, and you just have to really respect that. I have this theory of living in London, like, if someone bumps into you in the tube and it gets you like a bit riled up and like they've just like bumped into you and they're carrying walking, I always think, as a deaf person myself, maybe they have an invisible illness, maybe they're blind, maybe they are going through like an episode, like maybe a heart episode, they need to get out. I always look at it with compassion, and I think with the same with mothering and parenting, in whatever style you need to do, maybe that's exactly what they need to be doing right then, for their mental health, for their physical health, for their family's health. So just like, yeah, come at it with kindness and compassion and respect. Like, you have no idea what anyone's going through, and I think in the mum world and that community, we can all be very, I hate small talk, like that's why I love a podcast, because we can sit down and do long form. But if someone asks me how I am, I will tell them how I am. If I'm feeling shit, I'll say, oh, you know what, last time was like terrible. However, there's a lot of like, yeah, no, I'm really good, thanks, baby's great, yeah. And it's like, how are we going to get to know like the real gritty stuff? Like, yeah, be as open as you feel comfortable to be, and we'll connect in a deeper way, I think.
And you get no medal. At the end of the day, when your children are grown up, you'll get a thank you and an I love you and a cuddle, and you'll get amazing, integrated, healthy, well-balanced human beings, but you don't personally get a medal. So I personally don't see the benefits of putting your own mental or physical health at a detriment to yourself, to look after, at risk to look after, and be the sole provider for other people. You know, this was villages raised children, not one person in these very individualistic societies that we now find ourselves in. It almost feels slightly unnatural. But again, it is a very personal choice and individual, and some people feel very, very capable. They feel like they personally can do it all. I personally cannot, and I do not want to do it. What are your thoughts on the quote, you can do it all, but you can't have it all? Or you can do it all, but you can't do it all at once? Or you can have it all, but you can't have it all at once?
Oh, I mean, we can try and do it all, but it's exhausting. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm just not very good at things. And like, I'm not very good at taking the bins out, all right? I'm not great at it, and I try and be worse at it so that Matt does it. But that's actually one household chore that I give to him. Yeah, well, like the, you know, the tumble dryer that has all the fluff, I will scrape that out like every day and not tell Matt, but I don't think he realises that needs to be done, the tumble dryer fluff. But yeah, like the bins will be taken miraculously, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing, thank you, Matt. So there are definitely
mental checklists.
Yeah, it's like, that's been done. But yeah, you can't do it all, and as much as you try, you will just reach a level where you just, I lose my personality when I try and do things. Like, you are literally, you think of all these chores, all this mental load that is like piled up, every single tick list, every single thing that you're literally like checking off your to-do list, you're giving a tiny percentage of your battery to, and like your battery power is just going to go lower and lower and lower until you just have nothing left.
And do you have any hacks that help you to not do it all, but do a lot of what you need to do?
My hacks are to gamify things is one of my hacks, because I love setting a timer and I'm not competitive with anyone else but myself. I'm like, go on girl, you can do this. Like I try and get like all the whites in one part and all the colours in one part, like, and almost make it look like art. How can I make Ray's like muddy forest things look like a little compilation before I put them into the washing machine? My to-do list used to be just like writing exactly like what I needed to do with no structure, no order. However, I do 3 things for me, 3 things for the house, and 3 things for work, and I stick to those 3 things, because otherwise it's just like 42 things and you can't get through it, and you get to the end of the day and you're like done maybe 4. So the 3 really helps me, and the 3 things for me are always like a priority, because I'm like, you need to do that. Even if it's like, I literally write like have a bath with Aurelia, and even though that's a thing for me and her, I'm like, oh, this is my time to just like enjoy a bath with her, these little moments. So yeah, that works for me. Matt and I vouched when I was pregnant that we'd like try and work out how to do a nappy together and how to do these, and like it was fun for the first few days, and then it was like, oh, you do the nappy and you're so exhausted. Like, I just think trying to spice things up a little bit, and that doesn't mean like going and having full-on sex. Like, we did not have sex for so long, my goodness, and like we would try it and I was like, oh no, I can't, absolutely can't. It's like, it's just not for me at all. And I think there's so much pressure in like getting back to that physical state that like it can just be a cuddle, or it can just be like you've done like, all I needed to hear was, you are doing the best job. Like, you are, honestly, you're keeping her alive, you're keeping this family alive, like, just keep going. And that's all I needed. Or like, while I was breastfeeding, I just wanted him to put a pillow under my arm just to support. Like, those little tiny like touches, I think, all build up, and it can happen in like, it can go the opposite way, where you don't get all those things and they build up, whereas those tiny touch points, and just saying to your partner like, actually, I love it when you do that, or that would really help if you just tell me, like, I just need to hear you say in the middle of the night when you're literally up the whole night, and him just go, no, I'll just take them. Or I think the kindest thing Matt's ever done for me, or maybe not the kindest thing, but like the most selfless thing, is like him coming back from like a whole day of me parenting, and him just going, look, don't worry, everything's covered, everything's safe, like, you just go off and do whatever you need to do, don't worry about what time you're back, just come back to the house when you feel like you need to. And I think that, just hearing that and be like, oh, he recognises I'm just like, at full capacity.
It makes such a difference.
Oh, that's the nicest thing.
We have twins, so we've always needed an extra pair of hands. There's some women that do twins alone, some parents that parent alone. I don't know how they do it, but a lot of what our parenting is together. And I really see the benefits of being in the trenches together, doing those 3-month sleep progressions together, having to do bath time most nights together. Especially now, one wants to roll off the bed, the other one wants to climb to a headboard. It's chaos. We also have really good communication skills where we can check in with each other, and we'll do something where it's like, I'm feeling a 5 out of 10 today, I'm a 2 out of 10. Those little percentages are really helpful to check in with each other quickly. How do you manage to maintain good communication? I know that you said previously that there was a moment in time where you did feel very separate in the same house, but there were obviously moments of real supportive connection. How do you do that?
Do you know what? It's all down to a shared Google Calendar, genuinely. And that doesn't have to be work. I mean, ours is work and just like our life. Like, I think seeing it, and we try, I mean, we are not perfect at this in any way, but we are really trying to prioritise getting back into a Sunday check-in, like Sunday evening, going like, what does your week look like? Where can I help support you? Who's going to have Ray? Who's going to pick her up? Who's going to do drop-off? And like just trying to work out just those practical things that you actually really need to. And also that, I'll say to Matt, like if there are any bits that you need, and obviously there are some things that I just can't help him with and some that maybe I make a lot worse. And I kind of just say, yeah, where do you need me this week? Not just as Aurelia's mum, but as your wife. Like, where are those moments? And I think just setting out that week and like seeing it in a calendar. And he even puts in like, I love seeing his private golf lessons, which I'm like, where's all your money going? Oh, it's going there, right? Wednesday, 12 o'clock. I'm like, he's like, I need it. I'm like, yes, for your mental health. Okay, fine. But no, it does really help him. That's his like escapism. And I totally appreciate that. But I think that's so healthy just to see that and like I'm a very visual person. I'm like, okay, we've got our colours. Matt's orange because he's ginger. I'm like a neutral because I'm never neutral. All my wardrobe is like full on colour, but I'll take neutral. And it's just nice to have that like Sunday night check-in. Like Aurelia's hopefully in bed, and I think that really helps us just like establish the week. Like come back together, and we do try and do things together, but I'd say a lot of our parenting is just a tap in tap out jobby, and we try and prioritise like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday where it is togetherness. But I think from like Monday to Thursday it's like, right, I'm hosting an event this evening, so I'll do drop off, I'll make sure I'm there for drop off as much as I can, and then you're gonna have to take the evening. So I think we kind of split up days a lot, and that works for us. I mean, yeah, work is just wild, and yeah, it's incredible. I just feel so lucky to be able to just do both. I always say though, my main job, as much as it's not my full identity, my main job is to be her mum, and it's until she's at an age where she can leave and be self-sufficient, like she is my full priority, and I will say no to any job if she needs me. But I just know that when she's with other people, like we've said, she's learning from them. Like I think I learned the most when I was little from travelling and meeting different communities, meeting different societies and like different cultures, and I loved that. Like I think you learn so much about the world and from that, instead of being with your sole provider every day. There's only so much I can teach her.
Who takes her when she's sick?
I will. There's nothing you want more when you're ill than to be with your mum, and I will literally be there in seconds. Like no matter where I am, I will literally drop everything. Yeah, and we went through a really, really horrible stage where she had a lump on her neck, and it was for about 4 months, and no one knew what it was. We were told it could be lymphoma, she was going to have a biopsy, and it was just horrendous. She had an MRI and all of this, and it was a really, really scary time, and you just have to surrender to being their safety. You are literally their safety, and that was really, really tough. But everything just had to take a pause. And I think I'm extremely lucky that the business and the work that we do can be a little bit more flexible than a 9 to 5. But yeah, it just depends who your boss is.
Yeah, that's the thing. I know when the babies, as babies do, get sick every other day. When the babies have been, not every day, but you know what I mean, like every month or so, there's some bug that's they've caught, and one of them just loves cuddles and will not leave my side all day. The first day she's sick, she just wants to be on my lap, and I've definitely struggled with letting go of the plans that I've had. That, you know, your time is precious, so I've got meetings, I've got a call, I've got to shoot something, and you just have to, on that day, go, clear my diary, that's all out the window. I'm just going to sit with this little one while she half sleeps on me with a high temperature. It is hard, and I think there's a skill of letting go and almost being flexible. Do you find that's something that you've had to adopt?
Definitely, and I think as well, not when they're ill, but like I had this idea that every like moment that I'd plan, say, like Easter holidays, we were meant to go away, and then we didn't end up going because of my work, and then I was like, right, we're going to go to Brighton and have 2 nights, just like reliving my childhood that I really want Ray to experience, just being by the seaside. It's so easy to get to, and I had it in my head that it would be this beautiful like family experience where we were all together, and Hugo was there and our dog, and it was not that in any way. Ray had different plans. She did not want to be in this restaurant. She literally, we'd plan this gorgeous, I planned this gorgeous lunch. She literally got there, she took the glass off the table and just smashed it, and she went, I do not want to be here. And I was like, oh, fantastic. And I think you can laugh about it, and depending on where I am in my cycle, like my patience alters, my patience levels. And I was honestly, it was just before my period, and I was like, oh my God, this is literally the opposite to what I thought. And I just had to remember, even the tiniest moments that are like that glimmer of happiness from a toddler or a baby, that makes it all worth it. And I have to just surrender that picture and that idea of it being this gorgeous, perfect family moment, because most of the time they have their own narrative, don't they? And they do what they want, toddlers, and children. They don't know where they are. They don't know who's around them. They don't know that you've had this idea and you've planned this whole thing for them and you. So I just have to laugh about it, and sometimes I don't. I cry, and I just think you've got to go, right, okay, this is what it is then. Let's just shift plans. Let's just the simpler the plans, I think, the better sometimes. And I've always been one that packs my weekends full of things. And then sometimes I recognise that we are our happiest when we're just at home playing with her magnetic tiles that she stacks up and makes a tower. And I'm like, oh my God, you are the happiest. You don't need to be going to these extravagant things that you see, buy tickets for £45 for this tiny 2-year-old. You don't need to be doing all that. Just the simple art of just creating things from toilet rolls and boxes. That's what they want to be doing.
It is fun when you find that they're so entertained by a ribbon and the simple things. And I also find that it's different in ages. People that I've recently interviewed that have told me also about this expectation of a toddler and wanting this special day and stuff. You can be flexible with a toddler when they're not in the mood for a lovely weekend away, but can you be that flexible when you actually have some deadlines in business to meet or work commitments, and toddler doesn't want to go to nursery that day, she doesn't want to play ball, she doesn't want to adhere to your plans, but you have these business and working relationships and deadlines. How do you make that decision? What do you do?
You've got to just do what works for you at that specific time, and sometimes you don't know what to do. Sometimes I'll literally be like, what am I going to do with you? And honestly, I think the best thing is just to go outside, if they can walk, let them roam free in a safe park or something, so that you can take that call looking at them, or take them to a park with a sandpit where you just know that they're going to be occupied and you can still do your work that you need to do if you can. I know that a lot of people dentists and doctors, they can't work from home. It just depends on that very situation, and I think you need to know those friends and family members that will step in. Obviously when they're working they can't, but I think having that army of support, knowing that if that person says no, I can't, I'm sorry, then you step up to the next person. If that person says, you just need to know who you can rely on, and a lot of mothers don't have that. And I think that's one thing I wish that every mother had, was just a second, almost like a mother to them, because we forget to mother ourselves. We bath them, we feed them, we cook for them, we chauffeur them everywhere, whether that's on us or in the car. We end up being their everything and doing all these job roles that we forget to do that for ourselves. I forgot to bath myself, I forgot to feed myself, and it would get to the end of the day and be I haven't drunk any water, I fed her. But I think we just have to mother ourselves and do all the things that we are doing for them, for us, and really prioritise that. But obviously with work that is extremely hard. I sometimes don't have the answer.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think knowing that we'll just figure it out today. I used to be
Day
a
by day.
big planner, and I've now become I'm going to approach today when that's tomorrow's Jada's problem, or thing that she's going to undertake today. I don't have the capacity for it, and I think that's okay. It's a lot to manage it all. I think flexible working as well is a great privilege. Have you found any benefits of being a mum in business?
Oh yes. Oh my God, it has literally supercharged me. I feel like I can do so much more, which sounds funny because you've got so much less brain space and almost so much less time, but I think it opens up your brain completely, and you just have all these new pockets of inspiration, or from conversations that you've had when you've connected with other mums that motivate you to do something, or in business just knowing that you can combat multiple tasks at one time. And it just teaches you that you're more capable than you ever thought you could be. And that's also with my health and my, especially just getting strong again. I feel I am so much stronger than I was before having Aurelia, and that's not in terms of my body size or how it looks in any way, but I feel my reason for getting back into training outside of work, outside of being a mum, and just taking that time to work out and just move my body, it all kind of came from, I want to escape this situation. I want to be able to escape a situation where I have Aurelia in the carrier or on the buggy or just in my arms, and I want to know that I am safe and can like run away. Like that kind of was my first initial realization that like, I think I was like 8 months postpartum and I was pushing the pram and I felt really unsafe. Like I'm very aware of my surroundings. I was like, I think that guy's gonna like follow me. And I was like, but I don't feel strong enough or fit enough to run away from him. And that genuinely like kickstarted me to go, I need to do this for our safety, which sounds really like skeptical, but I think you become so much more aware when you're a mum of like the dangers, but also your environment. So I always say that I'm not like training for me, I'm training for future me, so that I can keep up with her, so that I can hold her and not feel exhausted, so that I can throw her over and my shoulder and play with her and just, I mean, the older she gets, the faster she gets. The older she gets, the heavier she gets. So I need to just be stronger and be able to like, yeah, keep up with her. And I think that as parents, as mums, we're constantly thrown this whole, and it's still, even after years of us trying to rewrite this message, it's that whole bounce back. And I was like, I've never ever wanted to be the size that I was before Aurelia. That's just never been my goal. I want to just feel so empowered and strong and like I could protect her and like I can have fun with her without feeling like my body is almost giving up on me. Like, because it's done so much for me and it's done so much for her. And I think, yeah, I just feel like, what would 80-year-old me want me to do right now? Like, what is she looking at? She's like, live your life, do the things that you want Aurelia to be proud of, but also you to be proud of. Just look after your body for me, because 80-year-old Chessie might have grandchildren and you want to be able to keep up and do the things that you're doing with Ray right now.
Are there ever times where you just don't feel motivated at all?
Oh, of course. Oh, my cycle is so... I'm very in touch with my cycle. That's only because since having Aurelia, like my periods have finally come back to a normal, my normal. So like 35 days to 36 days. 35 to 38 days. And I know exactly what day I'm on. And that almost determines how I train and how I move my body. Because I know that like the first day of my period and the week leading up to it, I never strength train. Like I try and keep those days from, let's say, like day 25 to day 30, whenever I come on my period. I try and keep those really slow. I do some yoga, I do some really gentle movement. But I know that if I strength train on those days, so maybe like 2 weeks out of my cycle, I will get heavier periods, I will feel more lethargic, I delay my period. I think like the testosterone rise and everything from like lifting weights just delays my period. And I also get more intense like pains. So I know, and this is like an experiment that you can just do with yourself and go like check in like every day, how am I feeling on this day of my cycle? And I feel like a rocket woman when it comes to ovulation. Like I feel like I can lift heavier, I feel like I can run faster, I feel like I can have better conversations. I just know that now I'm so much more, I like really understand my body and where I'm at. I can appreciate when I'm feeling like that little dip and be like, it's because you're about to come on your period. Like I just know where I'm at and how to harness it instead of hate it, because I used to hate my period. I used to be like, oh gross, like I just don't want to be on. And I'm like, oh, it's just telling me to like slow down a bit.
And it can be easy to push back on that and be like, why am I not functioning at 100% like I normally do?
Yeah.
But knowing that there's a reason behind it kind of gives you that permission to be like, okay, I'm going to sit back and cruise because actually my body needs that. It's the same way if you haven't eaten and you have no energy. You're like, you're not going to try and hit 100 when you're like, oh, I don't have any fuel in the tank to do that. It's very, very true. You're so well attuned to yourself, and I think that's a really key part of knowing how you can show up and give yourself to other people. If we go back to Chessie when she just had Ray, and we think about how hard it's been in these 2 years and how far you've come, what's something that you would say to that version of Chessie that you're proud of?
You did it, and I think motherhood just makes you so resilient, and she's just hilarious. I think if that version of me could look at Aurelia now and go like, I created that from like a screaming child who I just couldn't understand what she needed, to now, and her going, like she sat on my lap this morning and I haven't shaved for ages and she went, Mummy, you're all spiky, I don't like it. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's literally complaining about my spiky pubes. Like what? Like that is just hilarious. She's gone from screaming and not knowing what she wants to her telling me my body hair's too long. Like she's at that stage now where it just all makes sense. Yeah, it makes you more patient, it makes you more resilient, it makes you just superhuman, like multifaceted, and I've never been more impressed with myself. I'm like, the fact that we can be doing all of these things and still remain there, like we're just there, like everything, can't we? So yeah, I'd like to go sit down with her in her bed with her cesarean like pad on, the thick pad that I'd love to go and just lie in bed with that Chessie and be like, you're gonna get through it. That enjoy every moment thing, I think, puts so much pressure on mothers to think of it as this beautiful experience, but actually just accepting that the days that feel really, really hard are making you a better mum. Like they're literally building you up block by block. Like it's like a Jenga tower and you're just still going. But then that Jenga tower can topple over when someone like just pulls out a little thing. I'd say a lot to her. Just give her a cuddle, actually. That's my love language. I just want to just give her a cuddle and a kiss.
They say the days are long but the years are short. And I'm only 10 months in, but I can already see them flying. And you are right, you are just building yourself up bit by bit and becoming a different version of yourself, but similar, but strangely the same. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here.
Well done for creating this, honestly, you're amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
If you enjoyed that episode or found it interesting, inspiring, or it connected with you in any way, please share it with a friend that you think would love it too. Your support means the absolute world and helps us reach more people with these stories. For more information about our guest or anything else that you've listened to today, be sure to check out the show notes below. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.